Macmillan Audio presents The Sniper, the untold story of the Marine Corps' greatest marksman of all time, by Jim Lindsay, foreword by Chuck Mawhinney, read for you by Shawn Compton. Forward. My name is Charles Benjamin Mawhinney, known to most people as Chuck, unless you're family or someone I grew up with in Lakeview, Oregon, where I was always referred to as Charlie. Our family on my dad's side seems to have three different names: Charles, William, and Benjamin. Lucky me, I got two of the three. About 30-some years ago, after a long day of work on Friday night, there was a little tavern where all the working-class men would go called the Idle Hour. It was there that I met a man named Jim Lindsay, who was farming here in the valley. We struck up quite a few conversations, and he invited me to go duck hunting on his place, as the river ran through his property. Well, with my love of hunting, I had to go. All he really knew was I did like to hunt. We continued to see each other on occasion until one day someone mentioned at the tavern that Jim had sold his farm and moved back to the Willamette Valley. Damn Flatlander. It had been a long time when Jim called me up and asked if he could stop by for a visit. I said, "Sure, come on over and we can talk old times." When he came in, he brought a copy of this book called The Little Bastards. Seems like he did a lot of daydreaming about the era he had grown up in and took up writing a book about it. Since he had left, he had apparently found out who I was, or at least what I had done in Vietnam, and I think it intrigued him. We talked a while, and I thanked him for coming by and giving me a copy of the book. After reading the book, I called him and told him I loved the book, and it really reminded me of growing up during that time. We started talking a little more, and he broached the subject of me ever having a book written about me. I told him I had worked with an author out of Florida for 5 years, and just when the book was about done, the guy had a heart attack and died. The book never got published. I told him I would never do another book. He would come over here every so often, as he still had some business in town, and drop by and bring up the book again. I finally agreed to a biography, but he had to promise me that he wouldn't change any of the stories I told him, because I had read a few books written by and about people from the war in Vietnam. And having been there, I guess you could say I call bullshit on some of the stuff. We also agreed it would be about my growing up with some of the antics I got into. I feel Jim has done an excellent job of the book and telling my story. I'm just a simple person, and in Vietnam, I was just doing my job. Chuck Mawhinney. Author's Note. I knew Chuck Mawhinney before he was famous. We became friends while frequenting the same beer-drinking establishment, a Sawmill Tavern in Baker City, Oregon. He was a special person, a guy you're glad is in the room. Then I moved away and we lost touch. 10 years later, I was surprised to see Chuck on TV and shocked to hear he'd been a Marine sniper. He'd never mentioned it to me. I researched him and was blown away by the many articles devoted to Chuck and his military achievements. I wanted to see him again and ask more about his life he'd hidden for so long. I wondered if he would remember me. Would he share his secrets with me? I wondered why no one had written a book about him. I tracked him down through mutual friends. Over the phone, Chuck did remember me and invited me to his home. We met in his man cave garage. Sitting on stools around a homemade table, we caught up over beers. He'd read and liked my first novel, The Little Bastards. I was one, he said with a smile. I loved hearing that.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?